Tonight, we're going to host our 15th lecture, and I'm delighted to introduce Professor Olena Hubanova. Professor Hubanova, now with the Department of Economics and Entrepreneurship at Odessa Mechnikov National University, previously led the Department of Environmental Economics at Odessa State Environmental University for 14 years. This evening's webinar will focus on the application of circular business models in Ukraine during the ongoing conflict. We'll explore the essence, structure, concepts, opportunities, and threats of well-known circular business models that aim to reduce the use of primary resources, enhancing economic and environmental efficiency in meeting societal needs. Examples of implementing these models in both military and civilian contexts will be provided. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. Please note that tonight's lecture delivered by Professor Olena Hubanova will be recorded, but we will stop recording before the discussion segment to ensure privacy and encourage open dialogue. If you have questions during the recording, please submit them in the chat and we will address them during the discussion. During the question and answer session, you are encouraged to raise your hand or post your questions and the remarks in the chat, and we will respond to them accordingly. For those who cannot stay until the end, please know that all recordings are uploaded to our YouTube channel. To stay updated on our activities, please subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. Let us proceed with the lecture, and remember, while we may face challenges, together while building a brighter future. And Rostislavna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Oleg. I express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity to tell you about very interesting things regarding circular consumption models and circular economy. Because today we see that our economy exists based on these fundamentals and principles. So these principles should be used in after-war life either. I express my gratitude to all the participants and listeners of this lecture. And thank you so much to GROMADA project for support, for very careful attitude. Thank you for it. I'm a bit excited, so please forgive me, but I will start. So the topic of my lecture is functioning of circular consumption models during war, a focus on Ukraine. So from the very beginning, I would like to tell you some general notions about circular economy and consumption models of this component of sustainable development. So rapid economic growth of the last decades has changed the earth and life of people. Globalization, excessive consumption, and big population impacted on the complex of economic, social, and ecological problems. Exhausted natural resources, consequences of natural disasters, show us that production methods, resource management, waste management that exist today are not efficient anymore and produce harm to environment and to the society. Resolution of these issues needs the change of the vector of development of the current society. I mean that the existing linear economy that you see on the slide, so this is, you see there is mining, production, spread, consumption, and waste. This is linear economy. And we should pass to circular economy that is more oriented for sustainable development. Here we have production, spread, consumption, reuse, repair, and process the waste. Circular economy is an alternative to economic model based on the closed cycle of production, spread, and consumption. This is ongoing cycle of development that predicts and impacts to the growth of natural capacity, makes more efficient the use of resources, and minimizes the risks. The benefit of circular economy is minimization of waste, reuse of resources, reducing of harmful impact to environment, and raise of efficiency of production and consumption. Currently, the circular economy market is valued $1 trillion, and each year new circular tools and methods appear, and their efficiency is proved in different countries. Circular consumption models are different from the standard one because they are focused on values and they consider the benefits for both society and environment. The aim of functioning of such models is the full preservation of resource and reuse and repair of deficit resources. These business models include the participations of companies in intensification of reuse and reconsumption of products, and also their processing and substitution of resources. Involvement of consumers to reuse products creates a great value. There are 4 different spheres of emergence of circular business. Their implementation will give us possibility to improve our situation, to grow different values in different sectors. And these areas of emergence of circular business models include the following groups. These are liquid markets, and this sphere also includes product sharing because the same product can be used by different consumers. I mean that the product will be used to the fullest extent, and there will be lease, purchase, sale, and etc. So here we can have 10% of newly created value. The next group of business models is linked value chains. Here we see different directions of the rise of processing of different products and consumption. Minimization of devaluation in the value chain is done through recovery of raw materials and waste management and use of the waste as valuable resources in some adjacent production lines. Linked chains where there are no waste because they are used in some other activities and they can provide for 20% of the newly created value. The third group is lasting resources. I mean that resources can be used as long as possible to cover the needs without involvement of complementary natural resources. I mean these are production of long-lasting products and monetization of the long expiry period through modernization and innovation. The development of this sphere can provide for 30% for newly created value. And the last group of circular business models is longer life cycles. So, when we talk about lasting resources, they can be regenerated and restored eternally. So these are renewable sources of energy and new biochemical substances. Innovation in this sphere include usage only of those resources that can be renewed, recovered, and regenerated. And it gives us possibility to break the relation between the systematic deficit of raw materials and efficient production lines. Lasting resources can provide for 40% of the newly created value. There is another classification of circular business models by place in a closed chain of value creation. Here we see the following business models. Short cycle models, for example, service maintenance and some small repairs for equipment. Long cycle models are related to the return of the product for modernization and resale of it. The next group is called cascades. What is this? This is reuse of materials in internal production cycles, extraction of raw materials for production of other products, and cooperation. Then we have pure cycle models. These are creation and modification of products for the full recycling and 100% disposal. Also, we have production on demand business models. These are different productions on different demand, for example, 3D printing. And there are intangible models. These are dematerialized services, digitalization, and digital services. Sorry? Sorry, here we are. So the most relevant is Resolve classification of circular business models. It has been created by McKinsey company. So this classification shows us 5 main business models. These are circular deliveries. I'm sorry. Here we are. So this business model, circular deliveries, includes ensuring suppliers deliver resources that are either renewable or suitable for full recycling. Here companies substitute linear approaches and gradually stop usage the limited resources and decrease their waste. This is the most powerful model for the companies that produce some deficit products, or for the companies that produce different products with the big ecological trace. The Netherlands company Royal DSM was the first one to use this business model. The company had elaborated the technology of bioethanol of cellulose origin. This is a side project that is obtained from plants. And this is more ecological fuel than fossil fuel. Thanks to this, the company managed to have less waste, decrease the harmful effects to the atmosphere, and create 70,000 additional jobs. So we see here social and economic effects. The next group is recovery of resources. The group of recovery of resources means the extraction of useful resources and energy from recycled products. So here we see the transformation of waste through innovation methods. This model can be relevant for the traditional secondary recycling markets because it uses new technologies and possibilities to recover different products and resources. And it also contributes to the level of investment. Here we see different solutions, from industrial symbiosis to integrated closed cycles and design, where some separated products can be reprocessed into another one. The example is the company on production of carpets, the saw. This company recovers the waste material through the innovative technology of separation that gives possibility to separate the
забезпечує повернення пряжі у виробництво у вигляді нової пряжі і тим самим
and can be used for weaving new carpets. Here we see the decrease of waste production and we see the closed cycle of production. The third group is called continuation of the life cycle of products. Continuation of the working cycle of products and components through repair, modernization, reconstruction, and restoration. So the materials that can be thrown away are used by the company for support or for the full usage for the improvement of their products and product remarketing. Here the products remain economically useful as long as possible. Updating of the product is done through more directed way. For example, we see that the product remains operable, but only some out-of-date element or component is substituted. This model suits for industrial equipment producers, where new models are elaborated and are targeted for better efficiency. The example of usage of such a model is related to Google company. Using this model, company tried to resolve the issue of aging of mobile cell phones. They decided to rethink the functions of smartphone. And they have seen in this device different components and modules that can be readjusted for the request of the consumer. And through this readjustment, the users can substitute some broken parts, and they can continue to use their smartphone and not to buy a new one. Due to maximization of the useful term of service, Google wanted to increase the need for use the same smartphone. It was a very ambitious project, but due to some changes in the company, it has been terminated. But the works that have been done by the Google company gave possibility to conduct some changes in the sector of production of cell phones. And today we have some models of cell phones, and they are targeted to the fact that they can be repaired and they can be remanufactured. This is the readjustment I have been talking about. The next group of business modules is the platforms for exchange and sharing. Here we see exchange or sharing, availability, ownership. So there are some platforms where separate organizations or separate entities can collaborate. This model helps to maximize the usage of some products. It can be useful for companies with the low efficiency ratio, and this business model is used by the companies that properly are targeted to the increase of the usage ratio of their products, but they are not involved in the production itself. For example, car sharing. There is car sharing company right left that uses this model to increase its efficiency. The founders of the company have found that the cars that are used to come from one city to another, they are not used 100%. So there are some free space in the car while a person rents it and goes from one city to another. So there is a special platform that can give possibility for other passengers just to rent a place in the car to come from one city to another. And this is really a very reasonable model, not only for the clients, but also for investors. And the last business model in the circular economy is called product as service. This is alternative to traditional buy and own approach. This is provision by the manufacturer for temporary use of the product to consumers together with a package of services. Here, there are no risks to use the product for quite a long time, and it leads to the decrease of expenditures. Michelin company, that is leading producer of car tires, succeeded in adaptation of these models by creation of innovation program where clients and users can just rent tires instead of buying them. And today this company provides their car tires as a service. So the clients pay for mile, they do not own the car tires, and they shouldn't maintain these car tires. They only rent them. So accepting this business model, product as service, Michelin company gives incentive to produce tires for more long usage. And the company is interested to prolong the duration of usage of tires as long as possible. And also, the tires that are returned to the company can be reused for production of new car tires or to produce something else. All the business models enumerated are main elements of circular economy existence because they provide conditions for the life cycle without waste. Moreover, here we understand that business model is a concept of entrepreneurship. Also, we can provide some examples how these models function. For example, French company Renault, that has become the first car producer that assumed undertaking to implement circular economy. And in 2008, this company founded Renault Environment company that provides the management of spare parts and waste from car production. Also in 2020, another branch refactory has been opened. This is the first company in Europe for circular economy for vehicles in Europe. So their specialty is the fact that they try to provide the longest duration of the usage of vehicles and the change and substitution of old vehicles with the new ones that have less traceable carbon trace, and also they reprocess some waste, some batteries, optimize resource management, like for example dismounting of vehicles that have been decommissioned, regeneration of some tools and spare parts, and reprocessing of materials. Due to these functions and tasks of such companies, the group Renault and Renault Environment has saved technical and economic value for the year 2020 that amounts to 193.5 million euros. This is done by reprocessing in the closed cycle, the usage of secondary parts, repair, regeneration of these spare parts. So you see that this is quite remarkable sum. Another example of the resource recovery and regeneration business model, we can nominate the Dutch cluster that includes producer of enzymes, producer of medicines, and they also have cooperation with oil refinery. And there is also a company that provides thermal and electric energy. It is called DOG Energy. So all these participants of this cluster, they share some side products and waste. For example, the vapors from oil refinery are sent to the medicine production line and are used for production processes. Ash and other waste companies are sent to the cement production company. The sewage waters are purified, and the rest of biomass are processed into fertilizers. So we see the decrease of emissions through sulfur and nitrogen reprocessing for the fertilizers. And also, there are examples of practical implementation of other business models, like improvement of cycle of resources. For example, here we see the classical longevity model, and this model is used by luxury brands that produce high-quality products that are not subjected to fashion. For example, Rolex brand. They say that their products can serve through the life of human. Bosch is another brand. They say that their household devices can be used during 10 years and even more. So this longevity model for the product and resource requires to invest high-quality constructions and raw materials, and also provides possibility for repair and regeneration. But it also leads the increase of prices for products, but for the very well-known brands, this is really a very successful model. There is another group of business models that is included here. This is the cycle fashion. Why it appeared and why it gets widespread? Because each year we see that people put on clothes less and less before it's becoming old. That's why a lot of companies implement properly this cycle fashion model. For example, in the year 2017, C&A, German company, produced the first T-shirt made from 100% organic cotton that can be completely decayed in domestic conditions. There are also companies that produce similar organic waste to produce clothes. For example, pineapple leaves and some parts of orange fruit. German company Adidas has produced sportswear and sports shoes only for reprocessable, recyclable materials. So this circular approach is popular. There is H&M Sweden company. They also make accent on reusage of clothes and recycling of clothes. And in their shops, they give incentives to users. For example, they accept the old clothes and give discounts for buying a new one. There are different models for the product life extension. I have said that this model is really very popular for some companies with the low efficiency ratio. First of all, these are car sharing companies. For example, the French company BlaBlaCar. Also, there are some online resources for the exchange of clothes and some other things. For example, Torify. This is Finnish platform where it is possible to buy and to sell products that you do not need. General link solution another platform for agricultural needs and equipment. And some other companies, some other platforms that give possibility to share and to use jointly some equipment and construction sites. In Ukraine, there is a platform that is called OLX, where they can be sold and bought some things that one people do not need and some others need, vice versa. The examples of product as service, this is car sharing. Car sharing is really very popular element, especially in Europe, and such producers as Daimler, Berware, and BMW, they are really very famous on the car production market. And they use this business model for car sharing projects. Though, as each phenomenon, every business model has not only opportunities, but also some threats. You see them on this slide. For example, you see for the model product life extension, there are the following threats. So we see both opportunities and threats. Give me a second, please. So we see that opportunities are the following. This is increasing the value of the product for the consumer, the opportunity to offer additional services, maintenance, modernization, sale of additional modules. Modular design of the product will make it possible to update the necessary elements taking into account innovations and stimulate the client to work with the product for a longer time. And also, long service life of the product can become a competitive advantage and attract new consumers. But as I have already said, there are threats. The threats are the following: reducing of the volumes of sales of new products, termination of product use due to fashion or obsolescence, high initial investment for product design, development, testing, manufacturing, and after-sales service. If we go to the next model, these are opportunities: high quality of service provision and alternative strategies for replacement and inoperable products. A good reputation will ensure consumers loyalty by providing quality service, unique product characteristics that can only be serviced by an official service, improving the quality of repairs through the development of special manuals by the manufacturer, training of personnel, etc. And development of an appropriate strategy for providing repair services, problem diagnosis, technologies, product design, outsourcing of maintenance, and, for example, if there are some non-profile functions of the producer, they can be given for outsource of third companies. And the last opportunity is the waste reuse. And you see there are some threats. You can see them. They are unsuitability of the product for repair and lowering of the client's expectations. Then it's not possible to use this model. Then competition from unofficial substitute services, poor repair quality, decrease of customer loyalty, slow execution of technical maintenance, and reduction in the number of requests for repair services, and so on. And also, I think I won't focus on the following threats and opportunities for other models, but I think it will be feasible to pass to the possibilities of Ukraine's transition to circular economy business models. There are a couple of spheres in which we can successfully use models of circular economy. These are circular deliveries model. It can be used in agriculture. These are recovery of resources, also used in agricultural sector, and continuation of the product life cycle. This is attributed to automotive industry, production of large household appliances, aerospace industry. So, in the framework of circular deliveries, it is possible to use biodegradable or recyclable materials, but it is necessary to stipulate contracts with suppliers of ecological raw materials and materials to whom it would be possible to return products or waste for reprocessing, or for example the return of the out-of-date equipment for regeneration. In the framework of recovery of resources, we can see the use of composting and anaerobic fermentation to obtain fertilizers and energy, procession of solid waste and products unsuitable for recovery and reuse. Though it is necessary to develop the infrastructure of waste collection and sorting with the creation of appropriate production facilities. This process has already been launched in Ukraine. The differentiated collection of waste has been established in some places, and there are special infrastructural facilities that can process and recycle such wastes. When we talk about continuation of the product life cycle, we see that the product is produced on the territory of Ukraine, and there are potential capacities for its restoration on the basis of primary production. But internal investment in new technologies should be done, and also direct foreign investment and import of technologies should be involved, and we cannot omit interaction of production sites and scientific centers in Ukraine. On the next slide, we see other possibilities of Ukraine's transition to circular economy business models. For example, the product as a service and platform for exchange and sharing. You can see all the information on the slide. Here we see some examples that before the war conflict in Ukraine, we have already had experience in some circular economy elements. For example, the company Region 2001. There is Mironovsky Хлебопродукт, another very famous company. They produced some reprocessing and recycling of raw materials. And also one of the beer producers used this circular economy and recycling. About the regeneration of resources, Henkel Ukraine company worked with this business model by increasing the secondary raw material product in the confectionery. AB Ukraine, the company that deals with the reuse and recycling of secondary raw materials. Continuation of life cycle of products was used by the company Courage Bazaar and Danfort UA. This is the sale of the used appliances and things. Also the Rent-A-Brand company. This is the platforms for renting clothes and renting of cars. And the last business model, the product as service. Here we see Atom Finance, leasing of different equipment, and car leasing of Ukraine. One functioning of these models was in peaceful time. We witnessed it before the war. But currently, the conditions of our life have been changed. Ukraine is under the condition of the fact that we have some everyday problems like power cutoffs and blackouts. These are civilian issues, they should be resolved, but also there are military issues. So we can say that implementation of these circular economy business models can be done in military aspect and in civilian aspect. In military aspect, the continuation of life cycle of product can be used. It can be used for recovery and regeneration of military equipment and ammunition. This has already been implemented. Then regeneration of resources. For example, the usage of the camouflage nets. A lot of volunteer teams, they produce these camouflage nets. You see it on the photo, how it is done. In civilian aspect, all the circular solutions can be done through a row of business models, like, for example, circular delivery. We can see it is autonomous solar and wind energy supply systems, because, as I have already said, there are cutoffs of power, and it is a big issue for the modern society. That's why a lot of people pass to such systems of autonomous solar and wind energy supply. And the model of regeneration of resources. Given the fact that at the beginning of war, we had more than 600, since the outbreak of war, we have had more than 670,000 tons of destruction waste. The company Neo Eco Ukraine started to manage this destruction waste and to produce new construction material for reuse of these materials in construction. I mean, they use this waste to construct new houses for people who have been left without homes. In civilian sphere, continuation of life cycle of the product is used also. So the cycle approach is provided by the special initiative that is called Volunteering and Protection Center. This company gives very urgent support and assistance to people who were affected by the war conflict. They collect clothes from people who can share these items, and they give these clothes items to people who do not have. In the framework of this model, the second-hand shops have become popular because well-being of people has decreased, and Ukrainians are forced to buy things they need in second-hand shops. And it, to some extent, gives a solution to a waste management issue. The model product as service can be implemented very successfully in modern Ukraine. The example of this business model is the repair hub that has been created in Kharkiv region in the framework of support to recovery of Ukraine project. This structure gives to people affected by the combatant activity access to different tools and appliances and equipment that is used for recovery and restoration of civilian objects. Unfortunately, I haven't found photos of this initiative, but still there is such a program, and it is quite a successful one. What else can be offered? Due to the fact that we have regular cut-offs of power, maybe in the shelters that have autonomous energy supply, centers for laundry or for food preservation centers can be organized. Because if there is no energy, refrigerators do not work, do not function, and people cannot wash their clothes, and this is quite a big problem. So I think these models can be implemented through this approach. And what else I wanted to say, that during the war, the aim is changed. I mean, for the society. So if in the peaceful times we had the aim of improvement of lifestyle, but today we have the provision of the viability of society at minimum acceptable level. So the last offers and suggestions then can properly provide and serve for this purpose and aim. The creation of bylaws is really very important for implementation of circular economy principles. There are already some drafts for such documents, but still we do not possess powerful legislative framework. but our parliamentarians and authorities, they work on it. The key role for the circular economy support program can be played by the partnership with the international organizations and involvement of external investment and the rising of civil awareness and stimulating the public to discuss and to implement the circular models. And to wrap up my lecture, I would like to say the following. I know that in the end it is suitable to say thank you for your attention. I would like to say thank you for those who has listened to my lecture. But I also wanted to tell you this wonderful phrase, that problems are new opportunities. This is quite a famous quote, and I have transformed it. So problems are new opportunities, and solved problems are realized opportunities. So I think that implementation of circular business models will help us to implement our desires and opportunities for future. Thank you.
Professor Hubanova, for such an insightful and comprehensive lecture.